None at the moment. I didn't have a minute to do any additional work yesterday. My emails were piling up, so I spent about an hour doing those, and then I had to call it a day. So I was following along. A little bit at the end, I got distracted with a work email that came in, and I fell behind. So if you could actually share the code that you did right at the end, I know you shared a chunk of it, and then you did some more real quick with the file movement and creation and deletion and such. That'd be great. Like the full code. I fell behind and didn't get all that.
For sure. I'll just walk through that by the time the others join in. So I think we can cover that time efficiently as well.
Okay, I would say good morning, Matthew, good morning, Nick, and Dr. Ratan. Start with repeating where you ended up yesterday, and everybody enjoy today's session.
Yep, good morning,
Thank
everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So before we get started, the usual question. I hope you're all able to hear me properly and see the screen. Please let me know if you're able to. We can go ahead right away, if so.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
All right. Thank you for responding. And yeah, apologies in advance. I have a slight throat irritation today, so got a itch or a bug maybe. So please bear with that in case I might mute myself for a few seconds in between here and there. But anyway, let's get started. Right. So back to the point of what we were working on yesterday, just to give a brief of it. The last part that we were looking at yesterday was particularly set and OS module. Uh, we have a module called OS within Python, and this particular module OS helps perform a lot of file-based operations. It could be getting into a directory, creating the directory, deleting the directory, listing all the files that are available in a directory, and so on. It could be a lot of these things, and it helps perform these operations. Now, let's move ahead from there, and let's get to see what we did yesterday in this particular application. We started by creating a couple of directories, that is background info and credit score. These two directories were non-existent, and so was the dir directory. This was non-existent. The moment you perform os.make directories, it'll create a directory called dir, and within it, it'll create a directory called credit score. If a directory called dir already exists, it'll only create the directory called credit score. So the first time you run it, it'll create dir, assuming it doesn't exist. Then it'll create credit score. The second line looks to create dir, but it already exists. So it'll only create background info as a directory. Once this is done, we go ahead to the next part. Now, assuming these directories are already created, make directories will give you an exception, which we are catching here and stating that an exception occurred. And since these directories exist, it will give us an error, which will be this particular exception just for our understanding. If a directory exists, it gives an exception. If it doesn't exist, it'll create it. That's in short. And then we are creating a few names for our reference. Some names that should be there in credit score files and some names that should be there in background info files. We have around 8 names in credit score files, 7 or 8 names in background info files as well. And we see there are some common names in it. There is James, John, Charles, Linda, and Sarah. These are the common names. The purpose of our application is to first create files within background info, that is name underscore background info dot text, and create files within credit score, that is name underscore credit score dot text. Once we have created these files, our next task is to make sure that whoever or whatever name we have, let's say James, for instance, James has credit score info as well as background info. Since James has both these information, we have to copy both of these files together to a new directory called final. That is what our aim is. So let me open back this file. Oh yeah, and one minor thing about VS Code for reference. If you open any file first time or once, you can see its title is in italic. This means that it's opened temporarily, and the moment you click on any other file, it'll replace the current window. However, if you want to make sure that this window exists and any other file that you click on is available in the second window, just double click on it. It's no longer going to be italic, which means this is available in your window. Any other file that you open, this is going to be italic. So any other file you keep checking, it gets replaced. And the moment you double click it again, it's made available and you can go ahead for the next file and so on. Just some very minor thing that's available within VS Code that we just should be knowing regardless. All right, moving ahead. Our next purpose is to go to background info directory. And for each of these names, that is James, John, Charles, up to Susan, all these names, we need to create files where the file name will be whatever is the name followed by underscore background info.txt. For that, we are going through each name within credit score names, and we are creating a file within directory within credit scores called name plus underscore credit score.txt. That's what we have here. Name underscore credit score.txt. Since these are strings, they just get concatenated or combined together. Once we have this particular path, we're going to join two paths together. The base directory, which is our current working directory. Our current working directory will be this particular directory, 01 underscore basics. Within this current working directory, we are adding additional path, dir, then credit scores, and the file name. That particular file name, we are opening it with write mode. So it's going to create a file and we're just writing the content in it called content. The same task we are repeating again with background info names this time. Previously, we did this with credit score names. Now we're doing this with background info names. We go through every single name and we just add underscore background info dot text to that particular name. And we will create similar files in background info directory as well. Once this is done, our next step is to create a new directory called final. And our task is to make sure that whoever or whichever name or whatever name has background info file as well as credit score file, both of these together must be copied to final directory. For that purpose, I need to list all the file names that are there in background info, and I need to list all the file names that are there in credit score. And that's what we're doing up next. We are using OS list dir function, which is an inbuilt function. When you provide a directory name, it's going to list all the file names that are available within that directory. I'm providing dir slash credit score and dir slash background info. This will give me all the names. Once we get all the names, if I want to know which names are common, I need to ignore the suffix that is underscore credit score.txt and underscore background info.txt. That's when I'll get the information that okay, John is available here and John is available here as well. So to remove that underscore background info.txt and underscore credit score.txt, we are using list comprehension here. That is, we are going through each of the file name that is listed from list dir. We are replacing underscore credit score.txt with nothing. Similarly, we are replacing underscore background info.txt with nothing, which means we'll get the file names as only the person names. And this person names that we'll have, we are converting it into a set instead of a list. And that is the set that we have here. Just to give you a brief of why we are converting it into a set is, consider this is credit score, this is background info. John is common between them. Let's say James is common between them, but Susan is not, and let's say Charles is not. At this point of time, whatever are common, we can directly identify them using intersection function within set. For this purpose, to make sure that we are able to use this function and get the common files directly, without having to do a lot of operations, we are utilizing this approach. And that is exactly what we have done till now. So we are printing the intersection that should give us the 5 names that are common. So let's run it so far. The first thing I'll do is jump into my virtual environment. Let's go to scripts, activate.ps1. Right, there we go. Here I'm just gonna run set problem.py, and you get to see the output here. There is 5 names. This is the output of intersection. You get to see 5 names: Charles, James, Sarah, John, and Linda. And those are the 5 common: Charles, James, Sarah, John, and Linda. Now that we have these 5 names, we know that these are the names that have files in background info as well and in credit score as well. So we just need to take files from background info and credit info, or sorry, background info and credit score both, and copy it to final. This is our next step. So I hope all the steps till here are clear to all of you. If there are any queries till here, please feel free to let me know. If none, we'll go ahead to the next part of this.
Can you share the code for the last steps?
Absolutely.
I
I think
got
this
behind and I didn't type it all out, so.
that should not be a problem. I believe this entire code is shared ahead. I'll just
Oh, okay.
uh,
I can grab it out
yeah,
of there.
yeah. I hope you have the link. Please let me know if not. So your entire content will be available in O1 basics directory and O7 set problem.py. The entire content done performed till now is available here for reference. Right. Moving ahead from here. Let's go on to the next part of this. The next part of this is to make sure that these are the files that we have. We need to now add underscore background info to it and copy it from background info. We need to add underscore credit score to it and copy it from credit score. That's exactly what we need to do. So let's do that. In order to copy files, we're going to use another module that is available called shutil. So I'm just going to import that as well. Once you import shutil, we should be able to access it directly. Its main purpose is to make sure that you can copy files, archive files, all these basic operations. So let's do that. First step, I need to know what is the source file name and source file name. Where am I supposed to copy from and where am I supposed to copy to? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a function called copy files. I'll provide source path and destination path. When you have source path and destination path, all that you need to do in order to copy them. Okay, let's skip this function and complicate it. Let's make it easier. Let's just write one line of code. To copy anything, you just have to use shutil.copy, and you just have to provide what is the source path and what is the destination path. That's it. Where is the source file and where is the destination file? That's pretty much it. Once we do this, we should be able to perform specifically this particular operation as required. Now, let's move ahead and try doing this. First things first, we need to know which files to copy. We know the file names are these, that is the intersection. Let's store that intersection here as file names, or they're not exactly file names as we know. They're the names of the people in the files. So let's remember that we need to add underscore background info.txt and underscore credit score.txt to them. So let's try doing that. For name or file in file names, for each file, here's what I need to do. I need to first add underscore background info.txt to it. I need to add bg info equals file plus underscore background info.txt. Similarly, credits file, I'll just call this as background file and credit file. Background file is file plus underscore background info.txt. Credit file will be file plus underscore credit score.txt. This is what we have. Once we have obtained the source file name, we then just need to perform copy. Now, to copy them, please remember one basic thing about OS module is that I'm currently running my code in 01 underscore basics directory. This is where I am running my code. Since I'm running my code here, the current working directory will be here. So if I want to access the file is within 01 underscore basics, within which we have a directory called dir, within which there are two directories, background info and credit score. And in these, I have, let's say, John underscore background info and John underscore credit score. This is what we have. Now, in our current case scenario, in order to perform this, here's what we need to do. Since our code is running here in O1 basics directory, I can access this file from the current path, current working directory. That is, I need to access the directory dir, which is in the current directory. From there, this particular file. That's how we get to access it. So let's do exactly that. I'll just write source file is equal to dir. Now, after dir, we go to background info slash plus bg file. So we go to dir, then background info, and to this string, we are adding one more string that is called background file, which is going to be file plus background info.txt. To avoid this, you can directly paste this here and ignore this. This is the first source file. This is going to be the background source file. All I need to do is copy this background source file to background destination file. Now, the only difference between background source file and background destination file in our case is the destination directory is dir/final. That's it. I just have to write copy from background source file to background destination file. Done. After this is done, we have to do the same step for the credit score files as well. So instead of background info, I'll rename this as credit score, and I'll add underscore credit score.txt, and I'm going to copy with the exact same name. I'm going to paste it with the exact same name. This will be credit source file, and we'll just call it as credit destination file. Done. Now let's run this and see whether it works as expected. Once we do this, let's see where we went wrong. All right. So if you can see here, according to this line number 56, when we are creating the background info files, it says invalid escape. Oh, of course, the usual. I need to use, whenever you're using this kind of slash, please make sure it's a double slash, not a single slash. This helps escape the default meaning of slash. This is something that we need to keep a track of. Now, let's see if it is copied. If you go to final directory, you can see here, there's Charles background, Charles credit, James background, James credit, John, and Linda, as well as Sarah. So we got all our files available, and this is the solution for our problem. That's pretty much it. So before we go ahead, if there are any queries till what we have done in this particular problem, please feel free to let me know if there are any queries at all. If none, we can go ahead to the next part of it. Also, yeah, hey Brianna, hey Riley. So I'll just leave this code on the screen for a couple of minutes, or for a few seconds at least, so you can just walk through this. This is the only change we have done in the code so far. For those who have just joined in, all that we have done is once we've got the intersection of the files, that is the common file name, we are adding underscore background info.txt to it. We are copying from background info directory and pasting it to final directory. Similarly, we are adding underscore credit score.txt to that file name, and we are copying it from its credit score directory to final directory. To copy, we have a function called copy within shutil module, which is available internally. And that's all that we're working on. So any queries still here, feel free to the next part. All right. So I presume this is fine. In that case, we'll just move ahead to the next part. Now, please hold on for just a few minutes, as I'll just stop sharing the screen for maybe just a few seconds. So I request you all to kindly wait for maybe just a minute of time at maximum. Please hold on. All right, so yeah, apologies for the slight delay. Getting back to this, let me just share the screen again. All right. Getting back to this now. Once we're done with this, the next application we're going to try to create, or the next bit of code that we'll try to build, is a code to get live weather. Given a city, if I specifically ask for a city, it should give me the live weather for it. Prior to this, if you remember, I have particularly requested you to have access to this website, that is openweathermap.api. Please let me know if you're able to access this, because this, I'm so sorry, let me give you the whole content. If you're able to access this web page, that should be fair and easy enough for us to work around what we need to add. Oh, it's blocked. Okay, okay, all right. So if this is blocked, there are two things that we can do in that case. If you are able to obtain access to this probably by your afternoon hours, We can work around obtaining live weather through our application via this. So if user types, let's say Seattle or Washington or anything, we'll be able to get live weather directly within this application. We can do that. Or if that is not a possibility, I'll just try something else. So please let me know if that is a possibility or not, and I will plan the program that I will walk us through accordingly when we need to learn network connectivity. All right. That's completely all right at Brianna. So since we won't be able to access it, it's absolutely fine. We'll take a different example instead to work our way around it. Also, hey Jenny, welcome to the session. Right. Instead, I hope you're all able to access this web page. Please let me know if you're able to access this.
I was able to open it.
All right, awesome. That's pretty awesome. Then we can directly utilize this for our initial understanding of network connectivity for this. All right. So yeah, for us to begin on this, the first thing that we need to know whenever we perform connection over the web or connection over internet for obtaining simple web content, here's what we need to know. We have a module available within Python called requests and one module called HTTPX. There are these two modules that we commonly use whenever we need to grab content of the web. We use both of these commonly. There are different reasons for us to use them. Requests is the basic simple package we learn when we start working on Python. HTTPX is an advanced version of request. It's just a wrapper function over request. And the only difference between request and HTTPX is HTTPX allows us to perform async operations or async tasks. That's something we will learn over time. Let's not worry about async tasks right away. We'll take a look at how to perform async tasks through this. To perform async tasks, it's not just HTTPX. There's also AIO HTTP as well. There are multiple modules available. So when you walk through Python, there are tens and tens of modules available because they're all open source. They're all free. You can work around them in any way that you prefer. That's one thing that we just need to know. Now, we'll focus on our module requests. Now, first and foremost thing, whenever you communicate with a resource over the web or over the cloud, however you might want to call it, at your case, always remember, we send request in a particular protocol or a format. These protocols or formats could be REST, could be SOAP, could be, let's say, GraphQL. There's so many different, or WebSocket. There's so many different protocols, so many different formats in which you can send requests and obtain the response. The one that we're going to currently use is a simple REST API based communication. The whole idea of REST API communication is that you send a request and you get a response. The request you send and the response you get will have certain formats to it and certain conditions to it as well. Whenever we go ahead with REST APIs, your request that you send will have different methods to add to it. There are, again, I'm not going to go in depth about it. I'll only go to a smaller extent because we're going to use one such method to connect to the web right now. But there are additional methods, there are multiple methods that we should be aware of, that you should know in order to perform operations in future. Like, let's say if you want to log in, how do we do, and so on, all these sort of things. So again, I believe many of you might be accustomed to this. If not, I'll just share this across.